Hey guys, Mara here and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is an exciting one. I have been wanting to do this video for such a long time. I have been scouring my makeup collection for dupes, and not just dupes in general, but blush dupes. Now I love blushes. I have a fetish with like lipsticks and blushes. I can't get enough. There's so many different shades and variations of blushes that I'm constantly purchasing new and different types of blushes. So I have quite the collection of blushes here in my little makeup area, and I have just been searching for the perfect dupes. I have pulled a bunch of high-end blushes and found dang near close dupes in the drugstore world. So maybe you want, or maybe you like some of these high-end, more pricey types of blushes and you want a more affordable drugstore option, then this is the video for you. So if you want to see my drugstore dupes for high-end blushes, then please continue watching. So the first high-end blush I'm going to be talking about is this NARS blush right here. This is the NARS blush in the shade Madly. It's a beautiful seashell pink shade. I got this out of recommendation from Kathleen Lights. This is one of her favorite blushes. This is the swatch right here on the hand. Whenever you swatch it, you're kind of just like, wow, that's like nothing on. But whenever you put it on your cheeks, it kind of brings your cheeks to life and gives them the most healthy, radiant glow. And I have fallen in love with this blush. I use it on pretty much a regular basis. It is my go-to blush whenever I want something very natural on the skin. But let me just point out that the NARS one is a $30 blush. This is either $29 or $30. So pricey item for all the amount of product you get, but I think it's worth it because the color's stunning, the formula is amazing. The dupe that I found is from Wet n Wild. It is this Color Icon blush in the shade Rose Champagne. This is what the pan looks like. I am going to swatch it right next to the other one. As you can see, they're very similar. The Rose Champagne is just a touch, just like the slightest touch more pinky. But let me show you the pan side by side because they're almost identical. Like when you look at them in the pan, they're seriously identical. Now, the formula of the NARS one is very long wearing. It doesn't kick up a lot of powder. It's a very nice satiny type of formula. The Wet n Wild one can kick up powder, but these are some of the best formulated blushes from the drugstore in my opinion. These are only $3.99 and they are some of the most pigmented, most creamy, most luxurious feeling blushes from the drugstore. So this is definitely a very comparable product, and as you can see in the swatch, like, yes, the Rosé Champagne one is a little bit more pinky, but on the cheeks you can't tell a difference. It's a very natural type of blush, and the formula of these is phenomenal. If you're gonna pick up a blush from the drugstore, I highly recommend it be the Wet n Wild ones because it far surpasses any of the other drugstore brands I'm gonna talk about in this video as far as formula wise. The next dupes I have for you guys are coming from the Benefit Cheekathon palette. Now, I don't have all of the individuals of these. I picked up this palette when it came out because I wanted the individuals, but they're $29 a piece, so kind of pricey. The first one that I'm going to dupe is this one right here called Dallas. Now, Dallas is one that I had my eye on for a really long time. I love this shade. I'm gonna swatch it. I love the formula of Benefit blushes. They're really creamy. They do kick up some powder. They're more powdery than like my NARS blush, but this is the shade right here. As you can see, it's kind of like a rosy brown shade. It kind of has that like brown undertone. The shade that I have to dupe that is from Colourpop. It is their Super Shock Cheek in the shade Aphrodisiac. Now they just describe this as like a contouring type of shade, but it's listed under their blushes. So I'm gonna swatch this one right next to it, and whenever you look at it on my hand, you're gonna say like, wow, this one looks a lot more pigmented, but you have to remember that this is a cream formula, so it's gonna look more pigmented. So if you take this on like a stippling brush and you really stipple it on your cheeks, you're gonna get the same effect. It has that same brown undertone with a little bit of rose in there, and I think they look identical on the cheeks. They are seriously the same depending how you use it. So here are the two pans side by side. You can see that they are both that brown with a little hint of rose in there, and they are just two stunning blushes. So if you're looking for a good dupe, the Benefit one is $29. The Colourpop Aphrodisiac is $8, so much more affordable. The next one I'm duping out of this palette is the shade right here called Coralista. It's a really pretty peachy, it's like a glowy blush. It has a little bit of that glow factor. It's not quite as vibrant on the skin. It's a really like, it's more for like a luminosity. It's like a highlighting blush almost. It's a really pretty peachy with like a hint of pink in there. It's like a peachy orange shade. Really stunning. It really livens up the cheeks, really gives it that nice luminous glow if you're looking for that. And the dupe that I found for that is by Milani. It's Milani Luminoso. You've probably heard so many people on YouTube talking about this. This is a stunning peachy orange shade. Again, it has that luminosity, the same luminosity. Neither of these are glittery though. They're both just really luminous. So here's the shade of Luminoso. As you can see, the Benefit one needs a little bit more building up. It's not quite as pigmented as Luminoso, but Luminoso is more powdery. So that's kind of where you get that pigment from. You're getting the powder kick up from Luminoso, but it's leaving more pigment showing in the swatch, whereas Benefit's Coralista is not quite as powdery and you can build it up to that intensity, but on the cheeks they both look really stunning. So you have Coralista and then Milani Luminoso, and again, they're very similar, so you don't need both in your collection. They give the same effect on the cheek and the same color, just you might have to build up Coralista just a tad, but you can also go in with a light hand with Luminoso or tap off the extra and just be really careful with it and you're going to get the same effect. The last one I have in this palette is Rockateur, and it's this really pretty rosy, like luminous blush. This one is definitely luminous. Like, it's on the same lines as Coralista. It has those like highlighting properties to it, and it's just a really stunning rose shade. It's really flattering on the cheeks. And this is the swatch right here. It's a little bit more pigmented than Coralista, and it definitely has those pinky undertones. The pink's definitely coming through. I really love this blush if I want a really more natural type of like pink glow. This one's a really stunning blush to choose, but again, it's $29, so if you don't want to splurge on that, the dupe that I have for you is from e.l.f. and it's their e.l.f. like their studio blush in the shade Mellow Mauve. Now these are not my favorite formula, but it is a color dupe. So here's the e.l.f. one, here's Benefit. So as you can see, it is the exact same color. Like, this is the one that the color is pretty much spot on. Whenever I swatch these, the color, like, you can't even tell a difference. Now, I will say the e.l.f. one does need to be built up on the cheeks. I would use a more dense brush to apply it, because if you want the same color payoff as the Benefit Rockateur blush, you're going to need to go in with a more dense blush. Now, on the cheeks, it's definitely the same effect. Here's the two pans side by side. The e.l.f. one does look a little bit lighter in the pan, but again, in the swatch and on the cheeks, they look identical. They both have that like a little bit of like satin reflectiveness to them. Rockateur might have just a touch more of that highlight effect, but again, on the cheeks, if you just dust some highlighter on top of the e.l.f. one, you're going to get that same effect, and they're both stunning. For the price difference, I think you can't go wrong with getting the e.l.f. one, but if you really like the Rockateur one, that's okay too. But again, I mean, you can't really go wrong with the e.l.f. blush, because I mean, I think this is $2 and this one's $29. The next blush I have is from Tarte. Now, I love Tarte blushes. Their 12-hour Amazonian clay blushes are phenomenal. I wore one in my wedding because they just have such a good longevity. Their blush is one of those products that can fade from your face pretty quickly during the day, but Tarte Amazonian clay blushes are the prime of the prime in blush world. It is like, they last on your cheeks and it's no joke, like they are 12 hours. So the next one I have here is Tarte's Classic. It's this really pretty, like, you look at it in the pan and you're like, wow, like that is intense, like that's an intense blush, but on the cheeks, it's a really stunning like corally pink shade, and you can definitely, I like to take this with like a stippling brush or like a really thin brush and kind of stipple it on my cheeks so that it doesn't give this intense coral payoff. But this is the swatch here. It's pretty intense in the swatch as well, and the dupe for that I found is the Colourpop Super Shock Cheek in the shade Trickery. It's this one right here. It's that really intense coral in the pan. I'm gonna swatch it. Mine's kind of drying out, so I'm hoping the swatch is okay. This one's Trickery. This one is Tarte's Classic, and both their undertones are identical. This one again is one of those color dupes, definitely not a formula dupe, because Colourpop is a cream formula and it's going to look a little bit heavier because it is a cream, but again, if you take a stippling brush and really blend it out, you're getting the same undertone. These are both coral colors. They're both that nice peach coral vibrant shade, and they're just stunning. I love Trickery to like just stipple on my cheeks. It just gives a really nice youthful type of flush to the skin. Okay, so this is just a little mini of the Tarte blush, but if you want to buy the full size, it's $28, and the Colourpop Trickery is only $8. So if you want that color, then I recommend going with the Colourpop one. The next one I have is for the Tarte Exposed Blush. This is another 12-hour blush, the Amazonian Clay blush, and this is in the shade Exposed. It's a really pretty pinky nude. This is like a classic Tarte blush shade. Swatching it, I don't know if this pan of mine, like I feel like the top layer needs to come off, but it's been really difficult to swatch. But it's just a really pretty pink nude. It's an everyday type of blush, and the dupe that I have for it is another Colourpop shadow. It is Between the Sheets. It's this really pretty pinky nude. This is probably my most used Colourpop blush. Couldn't think what I wanted to say there. This is definitely my most used Colourpop blush. And again, you'll look at the swatch and you'll say, okay, that's a lot more pigmented. But again, you have to remember these are not formula dupes. These are color dupes. So the cream formula is definitely going to be a lot more pigmented in the swatch, and I just really like the way that the Colourpop Between the Sheets looks on the skin. I love taking a stippling brush, as I've said with all the Colourpop blushes, and I stipple it on my cheeks. It just gives a really nice flush, and I find that these are pretty long wearing. Not quite as long wearing as the Tarte, but for the price difference, I mean, I would still go with the Colourpop one. Shades are very similar. They're both pinky nudes, and if you build Exposed up, you can definitely get the same color effect. And again, if you stipple this one out, sheer it out, you're going to get more of that pinky nude effect on the cheeks with the Colourpop Super Shock Cheek. So definitely similar in color. I will show you side by side pan swatches here. Definitely that pinky nude shade, and definitely a dupe if you want that nice pink nude type of effect on your cheeks. If you're looking for a color, I would check out the Colourpop one. Again, it's only $8, and the Tarte full size one, this is the full size, it is $28. The last dupe I have for you is from Too Faced, and it's the Too Faced Love Flush Blush in the shade I Will Always Love You. Now this is one of my absolute favorite blushes of all time. It's a really pretty peach type of blush. It has like, it's pinky, but it has like an orange undertone. It's just really stunning on the cheeks. It has a little bit of like gold reflex in there. It's just a really stunning, illuminating type of blush. It looks really natural on the cheeks, and it's just, it can go with so many different looks that I find myself reaching for this quite a bit. It's probably my second most used high-end blush beside my NARS ones. I love the formula of these blushes. These ones claim to be 16 hours. I don't know if they're 16 hours, but they are pretty long wearing. They're right up there with the Tarte Amazonian Clay ones that claim to be 12 hours. They're just a really phenomenal formula and altogether blush. These ones are $24, $24 or $26, so right in the mid-range of like the 20s, somewhere right around there. So they're not as pricey as some of these other ones, and they're phenomenal. I swatch these ones when I stick my finger in. They're so creamy and so smooth, and they're super pigmented, so you can build it up or you can sheer it out with like a stippling brush, something like that. So I found a dupe for this, and I was super excited because again, it's one of my absolute favorite blushes of all time. It is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Blush in the shade Apricot in the Middle. Now this is a complete dupe. This is the most formula-like dupe out of the whole range here. These are both very creamy in consistency. Look at the pans, like they look identical. These are even down to like the Wet n Wild Apricot in the Middle has like the little gold reflex in there that really make it stand out and make it unique. It has that in here. The Wet n Wild one looks a little bit pinker on my swatch, but it doesn't look that way on the cheeks. And it's only $3.99 compared to 20 some. So saving you money here, and they're phenomenal blushes. Both of these are very highly used in my collection. So yeah, that completes this video. I hope you guys enjoyed these dupes. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and please subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.